Live and direct, you are tuned into the Bro Diallo Show, broadcasting straight out of the city of Chirac, state of Illinois. Also, Crook County. Today is February 6th in the year of your Lord, 2019. Lord, I'm still trying to get accustomed to the 2019 handle. Today is the sixth day of what y'all call Black History Month, but I call White History Month because I think that Black History Month is obsolete. I think, but we can talk about that later. But I think the coldest, shortest history in the human family should be represented by the coldest, shortest month of the year, not the longest, warmest, most humane, miraculous history of humanity be confined to February. But that's me, you know. If Europeans can pull traditions and pull celebrations out of their anuses, why the hell can't we just make it up? If Milana Karanga and his insane behind can make up stuff, then I can make up stuff. Anyway, we got today I'm going to be talking about black fatherlessness and what they call why Generation X was fatherless, and I'll be speaking based on the history, the research, the stats, and on my own experience as being a fatherless member of Generation X. Yes, I am an official member. I'm right smack dab in the middle of Generation X. I am a member of the hip hop Generation X and the hip hop generation, and I was fatherless by all intents and purposes. And I'm going to show you what a grand distortion and why Bobby E. Wright said you cannot use white definition to explain black phenomenon. But that's a little later. There's some other things that I need to touch on. This Jesse Smollett thing, I haven't spoke on it. The story, if you have been in a coma and you're just this moment waking up from a coma and you got such love for the Bro Diallo Show, the first thing you said was to your nurse, put on the Bro Diallo Show. I appreciate you. But if you're just waking up from a coma, that's the only way you can't know that the star of one of the hit black shows, Empire, was assaulted in the city of Chirac, which is not anything that would surprise me because even Dr. King said that he thought that Mississippi, Alabama, and the Dixieland dirty South was horrible. He hadn't seen anything like the level of racist aggression, white overt racism and segregation like he saw in Chicago. So it is not a far fetch or a far stretch that a group of white boys, two or more white boys, could be roaming the streets of the city of Chicago trying to get their Liam Neeson on, trying to get their muster up. That doesn't surprise me. I don't doubt that it could have happened, but in the least. But the reason I haven't really spoke on it and what frustrates me is there's another element to this Jesse Smollett issue. Now, first let me say I never watched. To me, his fame and status really doesn't mean much to me personally. I don't know anything about Empire except my wife watches Empire. She goes off and gets a bunch of blankets and she gets her, some tea or some cappuccino, frappuccino, or whatever, and she'll go wrap up in 50 blankets, turn on the fireplace, and just disappear from the family. And I have to, keep the children out of her face. And she snuggles up and she watches her, what I call trash TV. But, and it ain't that I'm hating, but, when I go and get my blankets and my cappuccino and turn on the fire and play my video games, she calls that trash too. So, we have our taste and our opinions. But anyway, she watches Empire. She likes Empire. She gossips about Empire with her friends. But I never, and she once said, you should try to watch it. I'm like, I can't watch that stuff. I don't like what's that guy's name? Lee Daniels. And one thing I don't like about Lee Daniels is everything he does that I've seen, maybe y'all have seen more than me, but it has a heavy tinge of colorism in it. One thing I did see from Lee Daniels from start to finish that I forced myself to watch was Precious. And Precious is a nightmarish story. It's a horrible story. It's not a true story. I don't really think it's a story that was about, um, highlighting the plight of many black girls. I think it was more of an exploitation of the plight of black girls, but that's another thing. But the Sapphire claim, the woman who wrote the book Push, that Precious was based on, said that what she wrote in that book was an amalgam of the plight of many different black girls she's encountered, all wrote into one character. Okay, is that your custom? But then the story is nightmarish enough. But then you turn around and all the good people are light skinned, and all the bad people are dark skinned. Every single one. Mariah Carey, what's that dude name? Lenny Kravitz, Let Love Rule. I was a fan of Lenny Kravitz's first album. That old, him and Han and Waylon album. Go check it out. If you haven't heard Let Love Rule, go check that out. Not bad. So I ain't hating on Lenny Kravitz, but Lenny Kravitz, and then the lesbian teacher and her girlfriend that adopted Precious and brought her into house. Alicia Keys. Every good person was light, and every bad person was a darkie. Now I ain't seen this level of colorism since I watched the movie The Wiz. Since I watched the movie Penitentiary 2. Go look at Penitentiary 2 with Too Sweet, where all the villains are darkies and all the good guys are high yellow. And we know damn well that ain't how it turns out in the hood. We got good darkies and bad darkies and good high yellows and bad high yellows. It's all a stirred up mix in the real world. But in the cinematic universe, I'm like, damn, this dude. And I can't even get to the point where all men are the villains. And that's Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey and Lil Daniel. All these dudes, and so I don't really mess with their stuff. I don't try to censor them. I let them do their thing. But damn, it's 2019. And y'all got some old backwoods tropes. So I don't mess with Lee Daniels and Lee Daniel products. But that's me. I don't tell people, I don't come to your house and knock y'all TVs off the wall. That's my preference. So anyway, just to say that I never watch Empire except walking through my home and it's playing in the background because my wife watches it. And that's all I know. And I didn't even know he was in real life, like in his life, an actual gay man. I just thought that was his character because I don't know nothing about nothing. So that's why I really don't even speak on his plight or what happened to him because I don't know nothing about number. But one thing I do know that it frustrates me, but this ain't got nothing to do with Jesse. This got something to do with black people then. It got something and everything to do with my people. What I can't stand is that black people in the city of Chicago and across the country, and let's not even go to black people. Let's go to black LGBTQAI. There has been a rash of senseless assaults and murders of black trans folks. Black transgender individuals have been assaulted, murdered across at just alarming rates. Right here in the city of Chicago, there is an epidemic of homelessness of LGBTQAI, non-gender conforming, queer, gay, bi, lesbian, black folks who, because Chicago, y'all from Mississippi, y'all, when you came up from Mississippi, you left your wealth in the South, but you brought up your Jesus. They all came with that big leather-bound family Bible. So when somebody come out in the family talking about they engaged in worldly behaviors, a lot of young gay people get kicked out of the house and they become homeless. And a lot of them turn to prostitution and they go up to racist ass Gold Coast. They go up to Boys Town, the so-called gay-friendly community here in Chicago, and then they face racism from the white LGBTQAIs, and the white LGBTQAIs finding black LGBTQs trying to seek shelter, and they establish loitering laws They increase police patrols. They even they get their Liam Neeson on, and they become vigilantes, gay vigilantes assaulting gay black youth. And all of this, I ain't heard nothing from nobody about none of it until a celebrity, a wealthy celebrity, catches hell. And all of a sudden, the streets is watching. The streets is commenting. Black Twitter is a flutter. So the classism and the celebrity worship associated with this issue, with this case, as it unfolds, as the investigation unfolds, as Jesse goes out and says he's the new Tupac because he fought back. As this whole thing unfolds, what really annoys me about this is that there are our brothers and sisters, people probably that are out here fighting and for and demanding justice for Jesse Smollett, probably got a little gay cousin somewhere they ain't said 2 words to. That's just foul. So that's what stands out to me because, like I said, when a wealthy black person, has some issues, my first thing is, are they down for the people? Because, because I'm class conscious. And I know that many black people of means align themselves with the systems and institutions of global white domination, capitalism, our oppressors, in order to maintain their advantage within the omnicidal system. So yes, I am less likely to be sympathetic to a wealthy or established or famous black person. I need to know their pedigree. I need to know their stance. I need to know how they not only make their wealth, sustain their wealth, and distribute their wealth and influence to benefit black people before I'm going to march for you, because you can hire people to march for you. Just like Amara Inya hires people to pretend to be her supporters. When you got that kind of money, then you don't need me. I'm for the people. And to me, class is up there with race. Or number 2. Garvey said race first. I am race first. Garvey did not say race only. So what comes after race? If it ain't class, ideology, then class. So, all you black folks, now that y'all have gotten this newfound sympathy for the compounding struggles of being black and gay, or being black and lesbian, being black and trans, now that we got this newfound awareness and sympathy, I hope y'all can go find, because the majority of trans and gay and lesbian folks out here are not Hollywood stars. Do not have their struggles broadcast across the world. So that kind of annoys me, and that's why, you might accuse me of being less sympathetic. Because I've been seeing people I've been reading all these articles, from Harlem to the dirty South, of trans men and women being assaulted, even in our continent. You got this concept of corrective rape. When a woman comes out as lesbian, there's a aggressive pocket of men who think that if a woman could just feel the penis, if she could just get a little taste of the phallus, that would correct her, that would fix her mind. So if you rape a woman who's a lesbian, who's a butch, or a stud, whatever the terms are, if you could give her and treat her like a real lady, i.e. rape her, then that will awaken her to who she really is, a dainty little girl. Show her that she's not as strong as a man and that she actually really likes penis, she just don't know it yet. We got stuff like that that's been going on for years, from Africa to Atlanta and everywhere beyond, but we need a celebrity. And Michael Moore wrote about this. He talked about how the Republicans were anti-stem cell research because they associated stem cells with aborted fetuses and boom. And Ronald Reagan was one of the top men that would he put a legal federal ban, and any federal research dollars and grants could not go to stem cell research. No stem cell research. We love babies, except for brown babies that we bomb and murder. But other than that, we love white babies. We need more white babies. So you move on beyond that. A little bit down the road, Ronald Reagan comes down with a serious degenerative brain disease, a chronic degenerative brain disease, while he was still in the White House. And all of a sudden, Nancy Reagan does a 180 on her view on stem cells. Now that they find out that diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's can actually be reversed, if not slowed in the degeneration and people losing their faculties through stem cell research would aid in that. And all of a sudden, the Reagans gave their personal wealth and their endorsement to stem cell research. And so Michael Moore said, I hope every single wealthy white man, every single powerful white male politician in the Congress comes down with dementia, comes down with Parkinson's, comes down with Alzheimer's today. Because if it's got to if the only way for the masses to get research, the only way for an issue to get awareness, and for the government to open up, for the people, for corporations to open up and give resources to an issue, is if somebody white, male, and wealthy to suffer. So I hope you all suffer. I'm like, damn, Michael Moore? But he's a white man, so he can get away with saying stuff like that without the feds kicking in the door, waving the 4-4. Now I'm like, man, damn, does every famous, wealthy, gay, black person, lesbian, black person, transgender, black person got to get stomped out in the street for the black community to acknowledge the systemic violence? You know, well, I don't know if that's going to work for the black LGBTs, because, you know, a lot of famous dudes get shot. 50 Cent famously got famous because he was shot 9 times, but that didn't do anything for commoners. So I don't know if it'll translate, but, you know, there's something to that. That's my main issue. We got a lot of black people who had no thoughts, no positions on anything confronting the black alternative life. We used to call them alternative lifestyle, but now y'all can get legally married, join in the military, no housing discrimination. So I don't know if alternative lifestyle is appropriate anymore. I don't know. I don't speak about things I don't know. But one thing I do know, that classism, celebrity worship is a severe problem that we need to get on top of in the community. Real talk. Real talk. And it's just kind of curious for me all of a sudden. Let me tell y'all something. Racist and rapists, but racists have been hunting and assaulting black folks long before Liam Neeson, and long after Liam Neeson had awakened and found out that, you know, the colors aren't so bad. You know, that's been going on. That's nothing new. But I don't know why it's got to be a celebrity. But I guess Liam Neeson confessing that he went nigger hunting, coon hunting as they used to call it, going out trying to provoke a conflict with black men with the intent of harming black men. Some of y'all just awakened to that. And speaking of which, did y'all notice Terry Crews came out and tried to defend? Now we have to call him Terry Luther King. Terry Crews, I guess he just, when he came out and spoke about the sexual assault and came out and said, look, you know, this Me Too movement is valid. Sexual assault is rampant in Hollywood. Even me, a 9-foot, 1,500-pound, lean, steel muscle, super black man, has suffered from the Me Too, from the sexual exploitation of the talent by the executive, by the managerial class in Hollywood, and came out and gave a real solid endorsement of the Me Too movement, spoke out in solidarity with the plight. When most of the time the casting couch you associate with starlets, but you even big muscular Terry Crews was not spared the dehumanizing objectification of Hollywood. So and everybody was like, oh yay, yay, yay. Even I was like, oh, good on you. Like I'm starting to sound like 21 Savage. Good on you, mate. Oh, I think that's Australian. 21. Man, forget 21 Savage. Let me talk about Terry Crews. Maybe I'll get to 21 Savage, and then we can get to the topic at hand. Anyway, well, let me say, I did play Ed O.G., Be a Father to Your Child, which is apropos for the topic, the main topic of today. Also, play some Professor William Mackey in honor of White History Month, February, White History Month, talking about European torture devices and European internal ethnic tribalism and tribal divisions. So That's what we started our morning with to cleanse our palate and align our chakras. But anyway, Terry Crews tried to come out and forgive because now he's Terry Luther King, Martin Luther Cruz. This dude really thinks he's a moral voice now. He had one thing. He really likes that feeling of being the moral authority, of being the righteous voice of justice. He really liked that feeling. And I can appreciate him getting into that role. But one thing, a lot of black folks that when especially famous, again, a famous black folks, and now Terry ain't saying nothing that a lot of black women ain't been saying for years, but Terry's a famous muscly black man that, you know, starred in movies with Ice Cube and in the Fridays, and he starred in movies with mocking, you know, Terry Crews starred in movies mocking sexual assault. If you go back and watch Next Friday, there was a lot, you know, of crude mockery of rape and sexual assault, of simulated sexual assault, turning sexual assault, man on man sexual abuse and assault, turning it into a comedic device. So Terry Crews is now, you know, and I don't know if he's ever come out and said that was inappropriate, or perhaps we shouldn't have done that. I don't know. Has he ever said that? I don't know. Because if you go, it's on Netflix now. You go watch Next Friday. He threatens to anally rape Ice Cube and what's the other guy's name? The stale funny guy. Mike Epps. And he grabs them, he sexually assaults them on camera, and then threatens to rape them. Then the woman who played his mother threatens to have her son rape them. And then he assaults and attempts to rape Cat Williams. And so he played a character that was trying to, throughout the whole movie, threatening or attempting to rape other black men. And it was so funny. And then he even fantasized about raping Tupac in the movie, because Tupac was sexy and he wanted to rape Tupac. So I don't think that's irony, but they did it's not just that they showed rape, but they made rape literally a running gag, a comedic device. And they were making fun of the rape of men being sexually assaulted and raped in prison. So there's that. But hey, I don't know, maybe he's enlightened. He won't take those type of roles anymore. Then he became a victim of it. But anyway, now Terry Crews is awakened. He's enlightened. He's #woke. And he's went to Congress. He's the man of the hour. White women just love him more than they did love him before. If they loved him before, I don't know. But here's the thing. He decided he would move beyond sexual assault and Hollywood sexual predation, and he would talk on issues of race. He's now that he's Terry Luther King, Martin Luther Cruz, now that he's so enlightened, that he's so much more ahead of the rest of us in his forward thinking, now he decided, I guess I'll start talking about issues of race and not just sexual assault. So he decided to say that Liam Neeson, back when he was racist, had awakened to his racism. He said that Liam Neeson was in a fork in the road when he was out trying to coon hunt. When he was out trying to coon hunt, that's what the white boys called it. When they went out to get there, they called it getting their muster up. He said, this brother said, and I had called Terry Crews a coon before. If you recall, when you go back to when he was promoting his movie, The Expendables, he was there with all the other guys, all the other steroided up white dudes, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger and the one bald head karate chopper guy with the raspy voice. I can't keep up with all these roided out white men in Hollywood, and nobody should expect me to. Ain't nobody got time for that. You know, go look at the Expendables list. Not Jackie Chan. Jet Li. And so I see that. He starts ripping off his shirt and acting like a damn gorilla. And he got a bra on, just acting a damn fool, while all the other roided out, muscly, dudes, they're promoting the movie being dignified, and this dude just gonna go full Magilla Gorilla. Like my grandma used to say, making us all look bad. So I'm like, man, what's up with this dude, man? Carry yourself. That's what my West Indians friends used to say. Well, I don't know. Are Guyanese West Indians? I don't know how y'all break that up. But when you're acting up, they say carry yourself. That's their way of saying get things. Hey, man, carry yourself. That means get yourself together or act like you got some sense. Carry yourself. But anyway, Terry Crews, well, I found the quote. Terry Crews said, I believe that every person on earth is capable of greatness, of the greatest good or unspeakable evil. Liam Neeson just described his fork in the road. So what he's basically saying is that Liam Neeson came up on the precipice of being a racist scumbag or being a humanitarian. And he, even though he embarked on the path of racist scumbaggery, he eventually turned on the fork of the road and now he's a good person. All is forgiven. Do you, player? And he absolved him. He forgave him for going coon hunting. Now, I don't know why Terry felt compelled to say any damn. Had they even been in a movie together? Like I said, I can't keep up. It's so much movies and stuff out. I can't keep up with it. I'll just watch reruns of The Princess Bride and The Good Times and The Bernie Mac Show and 40K Lore on YouTube. That's all I got time to watch. So y'all, maybe they've done movies together. I know y'all love correcting me. Oh yeah, Terry Crews. Okay, I don't know. I never heard of them working together. I might be wrong. I never heard of them working together. Why is he even caping for this dude at all? Terry Crews, stay in your lane. I don't even know if your lane is appropriate. I don't even know if you deserve to be in your actual lane. I don't know how much you know beyond your own personal experience. And we appreciate you validating the struggles of many other sisters. But then again, I don't know what, in terms of race, man, because you don't know how black women have been assaulted and now the face of sexual predation is now wealthy white women from Hollywood as opposed to the working class and poor black women across America who are the true, unheard, unseen, unacknowledged victims of sexual assault. So I don't even know how well you did that, but I was going to give you credit. And maybe your masculinity isn't toxic, but it sure is spoiled. It sure is day old. Can we come up with a lesser than toxic masculinity? Like day old masculinity? Potato salad left out in the park for too long masculinity is not necessary. You might eat it. It won't kill you, but it give you some bumbles, some rumblings, some runs. What's that? Day old masculinity? Spoiled? It's moldy masculinity, but it's not so moldy. You can cut the corners off and still eat it masculinity. I don't know. I'm not good at coming up with these terms. Y'all giving me one. Internet. Because he's not quite at the level of toxicity because he's trying to do better. I see he's trying to do right, but he don't know how to do right. Oh, I got a call. Caller, you on the Bro Diallo show. State your name or alias and where you're calling from. Oh, hello? D-Town, what's up, man? Let me get your name or alias again.
Yeah, my name is Cameron.
What's up, Cameron?
What's up, man? Dang, man, I've been following you for a while, man. I had to finally call in, try to have a spark conversation. I'm sorry to stop you in the middle of your lecture, man. Sorry to stop you in the
That's
middle
all right.
of the process. The information you're giving out. I really want to ask you a question. I don't know if it was I think it was on Monday. And we could take one step back. On Monday, you was talking about Utopia and the Green Movement, and it really got me thinking about a lot of different things. And I was just wondering how if utopias have like that internal contradiction where they could potentially end in death camps, or the hope for utopia can be wedded to like conservative reaction, or it can be wedded to the revolutionary fervor of the people, then there really is no like way to establish that. It really is no place. So if revolution doesn't have a hope of a utopia without also having the hope of other things that are terrible that could potentially happen along with it, because you said like with Hitler, then what basis or what could be the basis of trying to push forward a real radical movement? That's all I'm thinking. So I just wanted to ask that question, man. I hope you get to share some knowledge. That really has been sitting with me. So yeah, man.
All right, I appreciate that question. And it is a very, very good question. And just to restate, every single utopianist movement has ended in massive atrocity. Every single one. You won't find a real legitimate utopianist movement. And Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are all utopian ideologies. So that's why but the thing is, revolution is not utopianist. Revolutionism and socialism, capitalist in its essence is utopian. Socialism in its essence acknowledges a lot of the inherent flaws in human beings and in human social relations, and it compensates for them realistically. Revolution is a scientific process. Socialism is a revolutionary scientific process applied to resources and economic distribution. Revolution does not say that man is perfect. Revolution does not say that there will be some ultimate outcome of goodness or liberation for all in terms of salvation. Liberation is not salvation. Liberation is about every person being allowed to reach their full potential, and that people work together. It's about sharing and cooperation. Socialism is derived from our natural evolutionary processes. Humans evolved to be social, to engage with other humans. Humans evolved to share resources and coordinate. We're pack hunters. We have to depend on one another. So revolution actually is a challenge to utopianist ideas. Revolution is in opposition to utopianist ideas. Socialism is an opposition to utopianist economics, because a utopian economics says we're going to set up a system where anyone can get rich. We're going to set up a system where anybody who's willing to work hard, sacrifice, and apply themselves could be a billionaire. That's utopian. Where socialism said we're going to set up a system where all the resources around the people will be scientifically assessed and distributed according to needs. That's not sexy. That's not fancy. Where you will not have any jet setters or Bill Gates. It's actually the opposite. It's rather mundane. So you'll see that utopian, a lot of things that we think are utopian are actually very grounded in realism and evolutionary history, where a lot of things we think are dystopian are actually founded or rooted in utopianist, salvationist ideas.
And that damn. Okay. Let me ask this. So so when we're talking about social, and I agree with all that. So that is, and damn. Okay, so like the freedom that's associated with like the development of markets, like the freedom that's associated with. Oh no, you could say okay, along with the development of markets, there's also been there's also come along with that the appropriation of people's resources, slavery, genocide, all the other stuff is also tied up with the development of markets and the development of capitalist economic relationships or something like that. Okay, but that's utopian, but then socialism, we say that there will be nobody who can achieve beyond a particular means. That's utopian too, right? Because if you we agree that we have an evolutionary history, then we have there's a differential distribution of genetic material or whatever, which leads to the appearance of different kinds of behaviors, different kinds of phenotypic traits, or whatever. And that means that there's going to be inherent differences between people. And if there's any type of system where there can be the exchange of information, knowledge, or commodities, then there will grow up some type of differentiation between people. Now, are you saying that it's not utopian to say that you should inherently put a limit on that, even though you can still acknowledge that people are we're mutualistically connected together and bound together and interdependent? So I've been thinking about this for a long time, because that really, what you said on Monday, really heavy thinking. I had conversations with other people, so I just want to out there. I'm not gonna take up too much of your time. I know you gotta go back to the lecture. Amen.
All right. Now here's the thing. That's the thing that the capitalists tell us, that there are people who are better and more deserving than other people. I agree. There are people who are better at things than I am, and there are things that I'm better at than they are. So what should that afford me? We could sit down as rational beings and say, what does that afford me? Michael Jordan plays better basketball than me. Should that afford him better air quality? Yes or no?
No.
Or should that afford his? Should that afford? Right, exactly. So yes, we in socialist societies, if you go back and look at socialist societies before capitalists sanctioned them and invaded them and destroyed them and then say that socialism doesn't work, like what's happening in Venezuela. When you look at those societies, let's look at Cuba. There were great artists, great scientists, great athletes. You know, one of the greatest Olympic boxers in history was came out of Cuba. And they told him after the Olympics, after he won gold, why don't you migrate to America or migrate to Europe and become a prize fighter instead of fighting for socialism where you have to go home and you don't live much better than the average citizen. And he refused. He was like, well, I don't want to go live in these deprived societies. I'd rather live in a society where there are no homeless children, where there are no homeless adults, where there is no depravity, than go and live in a mansion and then when I walk out of my mansion have to step over the bodies of homeless people. But this man was honored. When he'd come home from the Olympics, he'd get a parade. When he'd see people in the street, he had a great level of social capital. People wanted to cook for him. He was always invited to people's homes. He knew that he essentially could go to any of the citizens and interact. He was invited. So what he had was social wealth. There was a great love and appreciation of his talent and the honor he brought his country. So there are other things that you can give to people besides private jets, besides multiple homes while people are hungry, besides billions of dollars while other people are eating waste material in a landfill. There are other things that humans, ways of honoring, acknowledging, and even enriching people without depriving other people. Even in Africa, they would allow certain people to wear certain colors, certain stitches, certain ornamentations to show their status of honor, but they lived in the same basic housing conditions as everyone else. So this whole concept of what have you done? Who in the world has done $1 billion worth of work? Nobody's done $1 billion worth of work. So if you're a billionaire, you're a parasite. But yeah, maybe somebody that does a little extra. I don't have an issue with somebody having a little more than me. I have an issue with somebody having so much more than me that it causes a deficit amongst the rest of the people.
And I agree with that. So then, but that's like, okay, so I agree with that completely. Now here's the concept. Like if you have, okay, that utopian thing. Remember you said like that okay, you have Hitler and he was a vegan and he would go around the table and make fun of people, mock them, condescend to them because they were eating dead corpses. And then he had all these ideas. Like ideas actually when you talked about them, I had read a little bit about like Hitler and stuff, but this was like when you said that really struck a chord because some of the stuff he said is exactly what some the people who do like urban agriculture. Some of it, not saying that's what they're exactly saying, but some of the sentiment is very similar. I was like, oh, okay, and so I'm just saying that at the same time that you can have the aspiration or the appearance of what is right and what ought to be, there's something else inside of that aspiration as well. Its own internal contradiction, which is what you pointed out. And that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say capitalism is right. God forbid, in Detroit, I understand that living in the wasteland and ruins of a post-industrial landscape or whatever you want to call it, I understand. But some of the stuff you said, that's what it sparks. I mean, when we say these things and we say that it ought to be this way and we have moral conceptions, there's something else inside of it. There's like a real tension inside of that, even if it's opposed to something that is terrible. So that's because revolutionaries and radicals are not saints, and they are not. I know that they're not perfect people. No one's perfect, but to think that the transfer of power or the radical transformation of any system can go about without a person trying to take advantage of that process or trying to twist it or distort it in some way. That takes place in any human system. So why not in the scheme of trying to restart and renew the system we're in? Why wouldn't that happen there too? That's the that's like not human nature, but whatever. So yeah.
Well,
That's the pain. So that's I'm with you, man. I'm like, yeah, but that's a real question, man. Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate this dilemma, and these are dilemmas that have to be struggled with and acknowledged. But one thing that we can fall back on Malcolm X, where Malcolm X said that of all courses of study, history is best qualified to reward our research. If we look at the history of socialism and capitalism, we pretty much see which system is more viable, which system provokes more warfare, more conflict, more depravity, which system causes more ecosystem destruction. And bottom line, which system is valid based on which system was brought in to rescue the other. There has never been a time where capitalism was brought in or implemented to rescue, where capitalism was brought in to rescue a socialist system. Every single capitalist system you find throughout history and around the world has had to implement socialist programs in order to sustain capitalism. In fact, all economies across the globe, including the United States, are socialist, fundamentally socialist systems. The only thing that separates the capitalist system from the socialist system, there's only one thing: who gets the benefit of the labor? In socialist system, the benefit of the labor is distributed to the laborers. In a capitalist system, the benefits of labor is distributed to the owners of the means of production. And what makes an owner? An owner is nothing but a piece of paper. Donald Trump is supposedly a billionaire contractor, a builder. Donald Trump doesn't know how to drywall. Donald Trump doesn't know carpentry. He doesn't know masonry. He's never changed a hotel bed or dealt cards at a casino table. But he's made billions of dollars from all of these things, even though he's done none of these things. Why and how? Right here in downtown Chicago, we have the Grand Trump Tower. How much work did Donald Trump put in? And then they talk about investment. What is investment? Fiat currency. It's not gold. It's not precious metals. It is literally pieces of paper. Donald Trump was born wealthy. He gained a piece of paper from his father, and then he will pass those pieces of paper on to his children and start a cycle. So capitalism is nothing more than a cancerous tumor on the back of socialism, where that dictates how the wealth of collective people. So all socialism says is the people who do the work should get the wealth. That's it. They say you can't own land because it's not possible to own something that was here long before they came to you and went. There's no such thing as private property. You do have personal property under socialism, but there's no concept of private property, which is an alien concept to most cultures until they came under European colonialism and slavery. So it's not, but they're going to come and tell us, just like the Europeans came and told us our gods aren't real. They came and told us that they told us our economic systems were fiction too. But their God is real, their system is the real deal. And everyone who said, I don't see it that way, had their tongues cut out. So this isn't a system that evolved naturally. This is a system that has been not only been brutally imposed on us, but is brutally sustained on us. And then they do take a few black people and a few Asian, Malaysian, Polynesian, Aboriginal people and elevate them in the system and say, look, this is your model. You could one day be Bill Cosby. If you just work hard and sacrifice. That's utopian. That is a mythological idea that leads to real world material atrocities and massive death. All right, but I appreciate you calling. People trying to get upset because they want me to kind of move. But please continue to call in. Let's continue to struggle with these ideas, because I think discourse and dialogue. I never thought that revolution, and nobody's more skeptical and critical and done more to try to dismantle the merits of revolution and socialism than me, because I always think that internal critique is more important than external critique.
Man, I'll get back to the thing, man.
All right. Please call again soon. All right, peace. All right, valid points all around. But moving on. Anyway, Terry Crews, and then let me say one more thing about this, and then I want to talk about, because I know ML, who started today, who got us on this topic today. Wale, the rapper Wale, went at Terry Crews' neck, big, thick, muscly neck, veiny neck, and said, you know, how dare you try to absolve Liam Neeson when we got black men being hunted down by white men even today. You know, but what's ironic about Wale is because remember, Wale was also colorist. Wale did this video called Pretty Girls, and it was all white and high yellow girls, no dark skinned girls. And then the insane feminist writer Cola Booth attacked him for that. Like, you're a dark skinned man from the continent, the mother continent of Africa, and you can't find a halfway dark girl to put in your video. So then he came out and did a token dark skinned girl video song. And so Wale, I don't know, it's a lot of enlightenment and regression, I guess. It's a path to enlightenment. So it's funny that Wale would be the one to call out Terry Crews' cooning when Wale has a serious history of cooning. But, you know, I've said way more than I should have ever said about that. Let's get on to the topic at hand. People, ML, but a few other people, I've seen people sharing this with me directly and just posting this article that was on New Masculinities at WordPress blog, saying, why was Black Generation X fatherless? A brief statement on why black men, quote unquote, left the black family in the 70s by T. Hassan Johnson, PhD. And so T. Hassan Johnson is apparently this masculinist who talks about the plight struggles of the black man. And that author, when you talk about the plight and struggle of black people and you limit it in gender, whether you're on the feminist side or the masculinist side, I think you're full of it. I just think it is absolutely absurd. Our oppressors never limit their aggression to gender. Now, their methods, their techniques for imposing their oppression, they might manipulate that divide, but they didn't go to Africa and say, let's get all the black men or get all the black women. But anyway, I can't. Let me just go on and say what I got to say. The article talks about black men that black men were put under this plight between the 60s and the 70s following policies that became ensconced in law, dramatically changing the reality for black males nationally. He said that female-centered welfare, female-centered family court policy, female-centered birth control, female-centered Title IX programs, need-based financial aid, which somehow he thinks that favored women more so than men, and black female-centered affirmative action hiring, black female-centered media. Now, one thing he doesn't say is not one of these policies was conceived of, implemented, or enforced by black women. All of these policies that he said, from Section 8 to Title IX, and not to mention that Section 8 came about in the 1930s. Section 8 was not in the 60s. But I digress. So he says that all of the welfare policies and reforms, basically, from these are basically New Deal programs dating back to the 1930s and the War on Poverty and Great Society reforms and legislation. That were every single one of them. Whether it's FDR, racist white man, or Lyndon Baines Johnson, another reformed, awakened racist white man that I'm sure Terry Crews would love, formerly racist white man. All of these were white men. Every single one of them. All of these policies were conceived of, written, put forth, and passed, and unfolded, and implemented by white men. And so you got a problem with these policies, and you want to go at the neck of black women for them? But I digress. When you say female-centric, do you think these white men wrote the policies in the interest of black women? Have black women, like this article proposes, done better than the black man statistically, economically, socially, politically, geopolitically, than black men? The numbers don't add up. So what would be more appropriate to say is that these programs, as all policies in the United States, were written for the benefit of white men. But then for you to say that these are white male-centric programs, white men conceived of this conspiracy and enacted this conspiracy against the black family will make the white man your enemy. When the white man, for many black masculinists, is the model, it's the standard, it's the promised land that you're trying to reach, to be what you believe the white man to be. Powerful, in control of his family, with money and power. So you don't want to make your God, your deity, your standard for manhood your enemy at the same time, because that will cause cognitive dissonance. So you have to say, oh, look at all these women. Women got the welfare. And speaking as someone who studied these policies, when I was getting my graduate degree in political science and public policy, who's read these policies and the Welfare Reform Act, these have not benefited black women. These were not written for the benefit of black women. This was written to sustain and validate the status quo, and the primary benefactors of this were white men. And not just white men, but the same white men that founded this country, the white gentry, or the white male property owners, the white male elite. So all of these so-called reforms were established to validate and benefit a system that was set up by white men to benefit white men, and they manipulated and caused internal disruption and conflict in the black family. And in black men, instead of identifying through radical analysis the source of the problem, want to deal with the surface of the problem. Black men, again, masculinists, reactionary black men, these masculinists want to deal with the symptoms, with the outcome, and that instead of dealing with the source. So if you live in a community that has a nuclear reactor embedded in that community as a result of environmental racism, and then you start to get all these black people that got malignant tumors, and then all your organization starts to focus around, we got to get all these black people with malignant tumors out of our community. Let's get them out of here. They're sick. They're a drain on our community. So you want to kick out all the black people with malignant tumors, even though the black people with the malignant tumor are a symptom, are a byproduct, are an ultimate unavoidable outcome of another process. But you never go to the CEO of the plant. You never go burn down or tear down the plant. You only want to deal with the symptoms. Reactionary. Cowardly, I may say. But going on. This article goes on to talk about all of these things that were female-centric, female-based, and also issues like black girl magic and black girls rock that black men didn't get in, and we never had a black men rock or black men's magic. Now let me first start off. Gen X is 1961 to 1981. So the Gen X men that she's talking about, they didn't become men until around the 1980s. And so these young black men, who fatherless black men, if you go back and listen to the music at the time, We Are a Winner, you had everybody going all the way back to Curtis Mayfield, that there was an avalanche of positive, uplifting, pro-black, black power media for black men to consume. But this dudes want to say there was no black girl magic for black men. There was no black girls rock for black men. Black power, black pride, black is beautiful. We Are a Winner by Curtis Mayfield. Gil Scott-Heron. And that's even pre-hip hop. And that doesn't even go into the conscious hip hop. From Public Enemy, X-Clan, Poor Righteous Teachers, Lakeem Shabazz, King's Son. And in fact, at the very moment, especially during the 80s and 90s, at the very moment that black men were getting all this uplifting, validating, positive media, there was a whole nother subgenre that demonized black women during that time. I Ain't the One by Ice Cube. I know that song by heart. Bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks. We don't love these hoes. Literally, black men were made millionaires, multi-millionaires, by degrading black. Remember when Snoop Dogg, who today is an icon, beloved by all, he's on everything from pornography to the Disney Channel. You can't escape him. He's hanging out with everybody from gangbangers to Martha Stewart. Showed up at an award ceremony with 2 black women on dog chains, with dog leashes on. And it didn't hurt his career. So when black women who had to deal with, go from the white man calling you a Jezebel to the black man calling you a hoe and a trick, saying you only about, gold diggers who only want the money, making songs, ass, gas, or cash, nobody rides for free, bitch better have my money. Too Short, another man, iconic artist. We just had a presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, say, Too Short is my favorite artist. Too Short, do I need to say anything more about how black men were given a lot of passes and get a lot of uplifting media while black women had to deal with a barrage of dehumanizing media for decades? But now black girls are like, skip it. Black girl magic. Black girls rock. And I even had a show called Black Girl Tragic about how black girl magic lacks the revolutionary consciousness and substance that's needed to truly revolutionize and uplift black women. But it wasn't because I felt, I'm left out. I don't mind black women having their things. But my problem is, hey, it needs to be more revolutionary because it's not going to uplift or really speak to the condition of many black women. And black women should have slogans and hashtags, but they need so much more. So my critique wasn't that I was left out. My critique that it didn't service black. If you're going to do something on behalf of black women, it should be better. Black women deserve more. So I have my critiques. So I'm not saying it's perfect or it shouldn't be critiqued. But the tone and context of this critique is absolutely unacceptable and bass backwards. Let's play on ass backwards because I'm trying to not violate FCC code. So this dude's mad. Dr. Johnson is mad. Hassan Johnson is mad. Perfect name for somebody like this. That black girls got the black girl magic. Black girls got the black girl watch. Black women got the welfare. Black women got the food stamp. Black women. And then he complains about child support. And I know child support is unjust. Black men pay more and get less out of child support than any other demographic. Which is true. Child support is a problem. But guess what else black men pay more for on average than white men? Rent, bank loans from mortgage to business loans. When we can get them, we get higher interest rates, less favorable deeds. Healthcare, we expend more on healthcare and have the lowest survivability. Every element of this damn economy. Every element of this damn economy, black men are overtaxed and underserviced, which is the whole premise of the freaking American Revolution. Taxation without representation, extracting more than you give back to a population. That's the cause for a revolution. But guess what? I got a secret. Black women have nothing to do with that. Again, black women did not write the laws. Black women do not enforce the laws. And black women benefiting from the laws, that's a toss-up. Some black women know how to work the system. Some black women play the system. Some black women get played by the system, just like black men. But I digress. So yes, I don't know why black men are so damn pissed off about getting played by welfare. When you look at the NFL, how many black men watch the NFL, and you don't know how the professional media industry that targets men exploits and overcharges black men? They paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to go watch men chase balls? When a damn boxing match comes on, Mike Tyson come on the TV, and the fight is literally 19 seconds long, and you done paid all this money for pay-per-view and money, and you don't feel cheated. I tell you again, all of this griping about child support has nothing to do with black men getting financially played. Because yes, there should be a black male and black general economic revolution. Black people are played economically. We put way more into this system than we ever extracted from slavery, and we were denied reparations. And there have been ongoing financial warfare waged against the black community from redlining on down the line, and other discriminatory practices, and not to mention the more than $1 trillion of wealth that was brutally stolen from black people during the great mass migration and expulsion from the South. And even journalists, even European investigative journalists, the AP, have a whole article about the trillions of dollars of wealth called "They Took the Land." They took our land, they took our labor, they take our creativity. Right now, there are old white men and little white kids going to college off of Curtis Mayfield, James Brown, and all these other, the Four Tops and the Spinners, and even hip-hop songs, where they had black men sign these whack-ass contracts, and they own the publishing, they own the rights. Even my homie King Dita, who was signed a record contract when he was in his teens and early 20s, and he don't even own the rights to his own name that he conceptualized in his own home, in his own mind. But all of this economic exploitation, we got movements against child support. That's where we start. Even though child support, even in the article admit, only started in the 70s, we got economic exploitation that goes back to the 1870s that has not been addressed. But black men want to talk about a program that ain't even 50 years old, when we got pro-economic oppression that goes back over 100 years. So it ain't about black men don't like putting their money up. And like I said, if you really don't like, the people who should really hate child support are the people who manufacture rims and sneakers and who put on the football and sports, because where the money goes. Because I say this every time. Every brother I know that be complaining about child support swear that if it wasn't for child support, they'd be the next damn Bill Gates. They'd be the next William Buffett if it wasn't for child support. But guess what? I'm old enough where I know dudes that aged out of child support, that got 21-year-old, 24, 25-year-old children. And guess what? I haven't seen a magnificent change in their side. And where were we before child support was enforced? Alimony and spousal support. How were we doing economically? So this focus on child support is because black men resent having to give money to black women. And I don't see that same resentment being given having to give money to white football team owners, white baseball team owners, white CEOs of auto fixtures. And I ain't even just talking about you brothers who get the spinning rims and the booming systems. There's a lot of you sophisticated brothers with law degrees and PhDs and you know, who speak standard English, who have passports full of stamps. A lot of you brothers like to get the butter soft leather, the wood grain interiors, the little markups, the more sophisticated tricking out your car, or as opposed to the lowbrow getting rims, spinning rims. And I don't see y'all complaining. To me, I have always seen and have always understood that this complaint about child support is dehumanizing black children. The resentment is my money's going to that bitch as opposed to going to that cracker CEO. We happily, voluntarily overpay for things. I just went to a cigar festival. That was 90% black men. It was a beer and cigar festival in Hyde Park. And black men standing there talking about they smoking fake Cuban cigars. And those cigars smell like rolled up horse manure. And I know them brothers paying $60, $50 for one damn cigar. They getting played. Every time you turn around, fake bootleg Jordan, fake bootleg stuff being dumped on the community. And that's something that's been going on for generations. So yeah, I'm all for financial justice. I'm all for the black men getting their reparations. I'm all for the ending the economic exploitation of black men. But when you start with the money we are mandated to pay for our children, that's where the buck starts. And you get so mad at what your baby mama do with the money, how she spend or don't spend the money. You don't care about the federal government taking your tax dollars to bomb Africa. So to me, I just don't see the sincerity of it. To me, this is not about economic justice. It's just another manifestation of self-hate and self-rejection. Maybe I spent too much time on that. Let's talk about abortion, because at the same time, they mad about paying child support. They want to get on black women for abortion. And I hear a lot of black men want to talk about abortion. And then some guy just came online talking about, you know, abortion and adoption, how women should put up adoption as opposed to abortion. And then the black woman said, well, there's a ton of black children that are available for adoption that nobody wants right now. So if you think adoption is such a viable, much more appropriate option than abortion, then hey, let's do it. Go get you some black child. Go adopt a black child right now. And that's what I've always said. Don't tell me nothing about abortion, black person, unless you have at least 3 adopted or fostering at least 3 black kids. Shut the hell up. But I digress. They talk about this abortion and somehow it's a genocidal campaign. And he quoted an article where they were like, so many more black babies are aborted than are born in America. So I'm like, okay, let's really look at the number. Let's ask some real questions about abortion. Because abortion, like, oh, these black women killing babies. Fine. If you go back to 1910, the U.S. black population was 10.7% overall. When you go to 1940, the U.S. black population was 9.8% overall. 1950, the U.S. black population was 10%. 1970, the U.S. black population was 11.1%. And then in 1973, you had Roe v. Wade. So that's when black women started killing babies and started this genocide of abortion. So almost a decade after Roe v. Wade, what was the black population? 11.7%. It has been held relatively steady for 80 years. The population was held steady when abortion was illegal. If a woman opened her legs and got pregnant, she was stuck. There was no legal right to abortion. There was no abortion on demand without apology. And where was that grand population boom? And this was also the time where over 70% of black children were born into a home, 2-parent household. Where's the population boom? Or where's the population? Let's come up to 2010. That was the last census. They're going to do another census. Oh, hell. 2020 census. Every 10 years they do a census. Black people in 2010 were 12.6%. Right? Over 40, 70, 80, 90, 10. Over 3 decades after abortion, after black women killing all these babies, black folks have reached the highest percentage in U.S. population than we ever had, even after over a century of abortion, black abortion included, being illegal. Abortion became legal. Now, whatever your thoughts about abortion, these people saying that abortion is the cause of black genocide, then they're not looking at the numbers. They're not looking at the numbers. Because if abortion was the cause of genocide, why isn't our overall standing in the population? Now, I know a lot of these black dudes are more, look at the black women the same way white men look at white women, as breeding stock. That women should have babies. And we want black babies born every day, no matter the quality of life for the mother. But let's look beyond this. So what? Maybe it ain't a numbers thing. It's just that you're morally against it. It doesn't matter. But we can quell this black abortion is genocide. No, black abortion is not genocide. White oppression, white domination, capitalism is genocide. But you don't want to fight white men and their nuclear bombs. You don't want to fight capitalism because you're trying to elevate in capitalism. So let me pretend that black women are the source of oppression, the source of genocide, because I'm willing to put my dukes up against a black woman, especially a young, poor black woman getting an abortion. But if I was anti-abortion, the first thing I would do is go to black women and say, black women, why are you getting abortion? And the studies are out there. The peer-reviewed studies, the stats and the data are out there. I go to black women. Number one reason black women get abortions. Well, my notes are jumbled because that's why I shouldn't write, man. I can't get emotional. I got to be a man, no feeling. My mind vice. Number one reason abortion. Over 70% women say, I can't afford a child. I don't have the material means to raise a child. I'm not a monster. I don't like killing babies. I don't believe that abortion is killing baby. I think every black man and woman needs to study reproductive development and fetal development and cellular development and cellular anatomy. We don't know enough about the damn body. The average man, we've got middle age and dark age technology. You go in here and look at so-called health experts talking about reproduction and the fetus and the menstruation. People are still using biblical explanations for, medical instead of medical science. But anyway, I digress. Number one reason, black women can't afford. So you up here in the beginning of the article, he wants to talk about all these benefits that go to black women. And then later in the article, you for benefits? Because me, I support universal welfare. I support universal housing, universal welfare, and universal health care. And if y'all just took away 2 or 3 nuclear subs all out of the ocean, you recall 3 or 4 nuclear armed aircraft carriers, you just kill a few less people overseas. You stop dropping $50 million bombs on $15 tents in the Middle East, you could afford universal health care, universal housing, and universal welfare, universal benefits for all women, children, and men. But I digress. So if you are anti-abortion, you should be pro-housing, pro-welfare, pro-economic support and incentives to women. Black women in particular, because those are the poorest women. Well, no, the poorest women in America are Native American women. And then depending on regions, some places the Hispanic women are poorer than black women, other places black women are poorer, but universally, the poorest women in this country are Native American women, and then followed by black women. Also, same thing goes for infant and maternal mortality rate. But I digress. But I always find that these anti-abortion, moralist, conservative, right-wing black men are always anti-welfare and want to shame women. Oh, you're lazy. You just want to sit at home and collect a check. Yeah, sit at home with the baby on your lap, suckling at your butt, collect a check. That is a great service to society. Since you think that women are breeding sows, what else do breeding sows do? You want to take away the woman's right to reproductive control, and you want to control her reproduction, then you make yourself responsible for her reproduction, dummy. What's the number 2 reason? But just by kicking out some more resources to black women, you could reduce abortions by almost 50%. Number 2 statistical reason that women have for getting an abortion: unstable relationship. Women says, I would not be getting this relationship if I was in a stable relationship with the father. So if you really want to stop almost 30% of abortions, you really want to end almost 30% of abortions, all you got to do is check your homies. And if the man would reassure the woman, listen, I'm going to be here, I'm going to raise the child. The women say that, well, the father doesn't want the child, doesn't want me or the child, and I can't do this on my own. If I was in a stable relationship, if he would be willing to marry me, to cohabitate with me, or commit to me, I wouldn't be having this abortion. That's the number 2 reasons. Material deficits, and then no partner, no support network. Those are all things that we could address today if you really gave a damn about the babies, and it wasn't about controlling or punishing women or shaming women, and it really was about saving these little clusters of cells, saving fetuses. It was really about getting our numbers up and mass reproduction like Hitler wanted. Then the 2 easiest things to do: there is enough resources to sustain every baby. From birth up to college graduation, there's enough resources squandered in this society to fund every child. Even the children of middle class and wealthy parents, to fund every child born in the United States and around the world. There's enough. So if you rework the economy as opposed to a capitalist worry-oriented economy to a socialist people-centric economy, you could do it. But you don't give a damn about the babies. You care more about shaming black women. The number 3 reason, after I don't have the material resources to raise a child, what y'all call them, broke bitches, the same women that you are shaming for having abortion, you're shaming for being on welfare and seeking public assistance and housing assistance, and you're mad about female-centric Section 8 and Title 9 programs, and then even though you tell her she a broke bitch, you even on your list is Pell Grants. You're complaining about Pell Grants and K-12 systems for women and free child care for women. You don't want that, and you don't want them to have an abortion. Do you want dumpster babies? You want babies like in other countries where abortion is still, there are many countries where abortion, even to save the mother's life, is still illegal, and I don't see you masculinists packing up, running to those lands. And you look at the state of women and men in those lands where abortion is illegal, and you still don't see this great population boom. But I digress. I've just never known. I've studied many abortion campaigns. I've never seen an abortion campaign based on the voluntary exercise of reproductive rights. Just genocidists don't like to work that. They're not that inefficient. Genocides are much more deliberate and inefficient. But I digress. And since white men control the economy and white men deliberately make sure black people have economic deficit, every economic-based abortion really rests in the lap of the white man. So if you really believe abortion is genocide, then you should still be going at the neck of the oppressor, not the poor women. But the number 3 reason women get abortions is they don't want additional children. They've reached their limit of motherhood. Many women who have abortions, not only do they have children already, the majority of women who have abortions either already have children or later on in life begin to have their children. So abortion does not destroy the reproductive capacity of black women. It allows them to regulate their reproductive capacity. It allows them to determine when, under what conditions, and with whom they will have children with, to give them more control over that than just, deciding, not to speak to the guy in the passenger side of his best friend's ride trying to holler at him. It gives us more control, and which is really the problem. They don't really, the same people that march against abortion march in favor of militarism and bombing and war. The same people that are anti-abortion are supporting the U.S. war mobilization in Venezuela that will kill mothers, babies, children, elders, and everybody else. So the anti-abortion movement has always been about power and control, never about saving babies. And the 4th reason is health. That carrying a child to term could damage or the woman's health or even lead to her death. Or the baby's health or the health of the unborn child is so compromised that the child cannot be viable. So the top 3 reasons for abortion. Number 3, the 3rd reason is women still are having children. They're willing to produce black offspring. They're still willing to be breeding sows for your movement in your mind. They're still willing. They're still making they're doing their duty as women, which are women are brought here to reproduce, right? That's their purpose. That's why God gave Adam a woman, to make more Adams, to make more Adam makers. So the number 3 women, we can put them aside because they're still fulfilling their role, just at a time that suits them. But the first 2 that account for damn near well over 80% of abortions could be solved with the signing of a piece of paper. But I don't see any. I don't know one anti-abortion campaigner. I don't know one anti-abortion masculinist who advocates for universal support for mothers and children. And I don't know one that advocates for mandated things like mandated child support reduces abortion. If a woman says, well, if this man gets me pregnant, I know that either through will or through force, he will have to make economic contributions to this child. That reduces abortion. But the whole article is just full of these contradictions. You either want abortion or you want some type of mandated way to care for children. Either the state's going to pay or the state's going to pressure the fathers to pay. And then you talk about incarceration rates. And black men were not there because of incarceration rates. I don't know what the hell that has to do with black women. And then they're upset at the Women's March. There's just so much effery. But let me just keep going down the line. Bill Clinton and the Personal Responsibility Act, abortion state by state. This is such an... I didn't want to read this just based on the title. I see this kind of stuff all the time. But number 1, here's another thing that they don't understand. Between, 1860, really, black men were allowed to be black fathers. Between, let's say, you have to go all the way to the post-Jim Crow era. So black men weren't really ever allowed to be fathers and men of our homes. Because slavery, in the black family tradition is a myth, because there's never really been a black family tradition in the terms of father, mother, children, picket fence, dog, 2-car garage. That's always been a myth. we weren't allowed to form families under oppression. And then you had the era, the small window of Reconstruction, where white people were vulnerable. They just went on an orgy of slaughtering each other. White people went on an orgy of white-on-white crime called the Civil War. And after the Civil War, the country was depleted. It was for the first time heavily in debt to hostile foreign interests. And you had a bunch of black people who had just been given guns, because black men won that Civil War. Up until the Union Army decided to arm black men, the South had fought the North to a standstill. And it wasn't until the Emancipation Proclamation, Lincoln wanted to win the war before he ended slavery. He wanted to end the war and then go about a systematic ending of slavery. And he would, if it wasn't for the absurdity of the South, the viciousness of the South, the Southern planters would have gotten over like the British plantation. When the Brits abolished slavery, they didn't have to fight a war over it. So they were able to plan it out systematically, the end of slavery, and all of the slave-owning plantation owners got heavy compensation. They paid hundreds of millions of dollars out to the plantation owners to compensate them for their loss of slaves, and didn't give 1 red cent to the slaves. And that's what Lincoln wanted to do. He wanted to have a British-style emancipation movement, where they would systematically transition the blacks from chattel slaves to wage slaves while economically compensating the white masters. But the white man was like, no, I ain't trying to give it up. I don't want your money. I would rather have my slaves than money. And so they had to have the war, and the North and South had fought each other to a standstill. And then they went to the black man and said, listen, you want to shoot some rednecks? The war was over within a month. More or less. That's Civil War history. They don't tell us. But I digress. During slavery, we didn't have no kind of family structure, but we had family structure. When you look at white people, because the family structure, Africans came here and said, okay, a family is a father, a mother, and the offspring, the nuclear family system that was brought out by the Protestant Catholic Church. Right? Where Africans came from a hodgepodge, matrilineal or patrilineal, communal families, extended families, multi-generational families, polyamorous families, polygamous families. We had a huge array of what was called family. And then we had this one option, father, mother. So we never had quote-unquote families, but we had families. There was the thing, in Africa, every adult man is an uncle. Every adult woman is an auntie. That isn't your mother, father, grandmother, grandfather. Any adult other than your mother, father, grandmother is, I don't care. If it's a guy up the block who has no blood relation, that's uncle, that's auntie. We had that extended family makeup. And so when a white man would snatch a child from a black woman and sell that black woman off, then whatever lactating mothers would take that child to her breast. When a black child had his black father beat to death, lynched, mutilated, murdered, or sold off to another plantation, other men would know we have to look out for that boy. We have to train him up, have to teach him how to make it and navigate this vicious system. Everybody was filling gaps and stepping in and stepping up where the deficits existed. That's how we endured. And then after emancipation, they didn't say, well, Africans, now that you've been separated from your motherland for generations, now that we've freed you from slavery, we're going to pick some Africans and send them back to Africa to study the traditional family patterns and systems and structures of Africa. All we could do walking off the plantation is to look around and see who the people who were allowed to have families, white folks, and how did they do things? Well, there was a mother, a father, and children. And the man went off and made the living while the women sat at home and did whatever the man needed her to do. Make clothes, tend to the house, tend to the children, tend to the fields. And so we was like, okay, that's what a family is. But lo and behold, here comes Jim Crow. Here comes the black codes. Here comes economic, systematic discrimination and racism. So black people had to deal with the same level of brutality that we dealt with in slavery. And black folks for the first time. Well, when you was a slave, you got free food, you got free clothing, you got free shelter. It was all subhuman and brutal, but you got it. Now you got to pay for your own stuff. And guess what? Black men were last hired, first hired, and when we did get hired, we were underpaid. So unlike the mighty white man, the black woman had to take on some extra work too, that the white women would not have to do. So the black woman would either have to go back out in the field and work where she was raped, go into Mr. Charlie's house where she was raped, go into the market system where she was raped. And a lot of black men was raising mixed race, biracial children that he knew damn well wasn't his. The kind of men you call simp, but understood that his woman was raped, and that if they reported the rape, she would be lynched, he would be lynched, their home would be burnt, and their children would be turned over to a slave labor camp. Or I'm sorry, an orphanage. This is what the black family had to go through. There'd be knock at doors. And they drag out the husband, drag out the mother, drag out anybody they want and have their way with them. With no recourse of justice. And if you called the police, you'd be lynched. If you walk the street showing your scars and bruises, even when they brutalize you, you have to stay home until you healed up. Because walking the street looking brutalized would cause a scandal. White women didn't want to see black women that their husbands had raped, because then a white woman might walk up with a cinder block and bash you in the head for making her husband turn to sin. This is the history we come out of in the year 2019. We got black men with PhDs talking this nonsense and ignoring and neglecting and not speaking to the history that brought us here and the people that sustain us here. You want to go and gripe and cry and complain and struggle and do the tug of war with black women over crumbs instead of fighting your oppressor. But I digress. We ain't never had no damn family structure that mimicked the white people. We've never had the resources and never had the security and stability to form traditional families. There are no traditional families at any history in the United States, even up till now. It doesn't exist. Because even if we don't have the overt racism, we got the psychological scars and perpetual psychological attacks that we haven't addressed. But the black men want to be mad at the black woman because she won't play house with us. She won't let me strut around my living room like the white man gets to strut around his home, or the way I imagine he does. Y'all think these strong black men, they go home and put on dog collars and garter belts and get pegged by their wives. But you think because they're in the street in Brook Brother tailored suits and briefcases and trading your whole life, trading Africa's resources for fiat dollars, you think that's power and what you want to aspire to. You want to be like Nas and get an investment and be a capitalist and be a venture capitalist and an investor and moving fiat currency and digits around on a computer while the planet dies. And your corpse will be the corpse that flew in private jets. And my corpse will be the corpse that rode on public transit. But we're both dead, dumbass. But I digress. So during the era of Jim Crow, there was no family stability. Yeah, we got married and stayed married. But a lot of times the husband would have to run up north or have to send his children up north. Our family was not stable. Yeah, we got the stats to show how stable we were. But the white man didn't run up, let's lynch a nigger. Well, this nigger is a hard working, he's married, and he stays at home. He's a good nigger. Don't lynch that one. They didn't give a damn. And so a lot of black men came home after walking the streets. You a 45-year-old black man and a 12-year-old white boy, toothless white boy. Some 12-year-old white boy could walk up, bend down, nigger, let me rub your head for good luck, and kick you in the ass and goose you and give you a wedgie. And you gotta laugh, huh? You sure is funny, mister. Have to call some 12-year-old filthy white trash mister. He ain't got no shoes. That white boy poorer than you. He's illiterate. He's missing half his teeth. He got rickets. He got pox scars. He got patches of hair missing because his body is so infested with parasites and lice and hookworms. It don't matter. He's got, if you rub away some of the filth, you see white skin under there. So he could go to the white minister, the white doctor, and rub his head for good luck and goose him. He could walk the streets. White people walk the streets like Liam Neeson hunting, coon hunting. And the more affluent, the more articulate, the more poised and proper posture a nigga had, the more he would be a target of white aggression. So then you go home. After you done joined the military, after you done got your college degree, after you done joined some Negro fraternity like Farrakhan just joined a frat. Weird. Anyway, and you go home. And the only person you got power over is your loving wife and your little no good kids. I got another call. Thank you for rescuing me from myself. Caller, you're on the Bro Diallo show. State your name or alias, where you calling from.
Good morning, Diallo. It's Janelle from
See,
St. Louis.
you see what you done started?
No, I didn't really start anything. The day I posted it, I tagged, I don't know, like 10 men, men that I have some respect for. And I actually got a wide range of responses. Some men, kind of agreed with the premises, some didn't. So it's interesting responses. And I wanted to know yours because, of course, everyone doesn't come from a pan-Africanist perspective. We, like you said, we don't have the traditional families that the white picket fence and all that type of thing. So a lot of men and women, not just little men, a lot of men and women go from this European concept of what family is, and they put it on black people, and that's not, I say this all the time, that's not our SHIT. When we talk about a lot of things European, that's not our stuff. So that didn't come from our ancestors, and I'm not claiming that. So I just wanted to get your perspective, just because you come from a perspective more along what I was thinking. But Johnson and some other men in that field, just have more of a traditional view of more in line of what it is in America. And when I say America, I put UK in it.
Right. So, well, I'm offering my point of view. Right. Well, I hope it's contributing to the dialogue. But to me, this is a stupid discussion. We should be beyond this type of stuff. But I guess you got to meet the people where they at.
Don't get me wrong, black men do, and black boys as well, do suffer certain things that's like sexual assault, sexual abuse. Their sexual abuse isn't, taken seriously recognized. That. So there are some things where, black boys and men have, been, I don't know what the proper word would be, but, they have suffered certain things. And the thing is, I feel like this whole thing is oppression Olympics. You know what I'm saying? Black men and women, oh, I had it worse. Oh, no, I had it worse. Oh, no, I had it worse. Oh, no, they did this to me. Well, they did that to me. It's like we should get to a point where we see that everything those people have done was to divide us, and they succeeded. So we need to stop with this blaming each other and put the blame where it goes. A couple days ago, one of my Facebook friends said on my post, their neighborhood was ruined by black men who sold drugs. And I'm like, no. Before they were black men who were selling drugs, other people and other systems and institutions did things in that neighborhood to ruin the neighborhood. It wasn't the men who felt like they had to sell drugs in order to eat and feed their families. That's not what ruined the neighborhood. So we just need to take it away from blaming each other and put the blame where it actually belongs, on the, you don't like to say supremacists, but the global white, oppressive dominators or whatever you want to call them. They got into a point where they've done all this, and we just fall for it. We just fall for blaming each other and not putting the blame where it actually belongs. But these discussions definitely need to end, but I don't know when, so.
Well, I appreciate you calling in. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I do appreciate you bringing this to my attention again, because even after I'm like, man, I'm not reading this mess, but I went ahead and read it. And all right, sis. All right, talk to you soon. Peace. Sorry, I forgot to turn the speaker. But if you didn't get to hear all of ML's comments, you can again listen when I upload this to the website. It'll have all the show, even the parts that don't come across YouTube and Facebook. Sorry about that. Yes. So masculinism. I obviously don't support masculinism. Our oppression has never been gender exclusive or strictly gender based, even though it has some gender specific manifestations, which are two different things. And if you're only looking at the surface, if you don't have a liberationist point of view, because most of this article, why was the black man fatherless? And let me tell you something. When I was born, when I was given birth in the world, only my mother's name is on my birth certificate because my father was in jail. And my earliest memory is when my father had gotten out of jail. I was sleeping at my grandmother's house, and he came to greet me. Even though, long story short, my father wasn't in my life, but I wasn't fatherless because the black community didn't get down like that. And for 2 generations, my great grandfather, Grandpa Bowie and Grandma Bowie, they came up through the Depression and came up through Jim Crow and raised a family in racist ass Kansas City, Missouri. That's still racist. Even just a year and a half ago, the NAACP issued a warning to black people traveling throughout Missouri. And it's from Ferguson, St. Louis, all the way to Kansas City on the other side of the state. It is a vicious, brutal state. But Grandpa Bowie, a man who I only know, he was missing half the fingers on one of his hands because of some industrial accident. He was a hard, traditional man, the kind of man Dr. Umar would be proud of. And he was the one, he raised me, because my mother I was her second child. She was 16 when she got pregnant with me and 17 when she gave birth to me. And I had Grandpa Bowie there, taught me how to prime a lawnmower engine, how to cut, measure, and do all the manhood things. He was one of my fathers. And that's another thing. I talk about, you go see the movie Sankofa. And there was a pregnant woman who tried to escape because she didn't want her baby to be born a slave. So she ran into the wilderness and was captured and brought back. And they beat her to death. And as she was dying, the midwife ran onto the post, cut her down, and cut the baby out. And they were able to save the baby. And the part of the movie, the woman was like, well, he lost his mother. Now he has dozens of mothers. Because now all of the lactating women would take turn feeding the newborn. So when you lose your mother, you get a dozen mothers. That's how the hood used to operate. Your father wasn't there, you'd get a half a dozen fathers who would step up. So my great-grandfather would be there for me. My Uncle Chris, Uncle Carl, Uncle Clint, my uncles that hadn't fallen to the systematic oppression that had fallen. I had some uncles who got on drugs, who had some people in the hood, but I had fathers everywhere. I had black men that would step to me and check me when I was wrong, would guide me, who were interested. You know, when I got into college, my uncle, I'll never forget this. He bought me a first-class plane ticket, and that was his way of showing how proud of me he was. And that same uncle would come to me and check me. He'd see me running around the projects acting a damn fool. I had more mothers and fathers than I could count. My grandmother, my older sister, my great aunt, my grandmother's younger sister have all been mothers to me. That's how the black family functions. And you want to condemn or neglect or ignore and deny that because it doesn't fit the fake paternal nuclear family pattern. The black family has endured atrocities that have driven other races of people to utter extinction. Look it up. Dr. Clark said it. We have endured things that have driven other races, Arawaks, Kalanagos, other people have gone extinct, being subjected to just a fraction of what we've been through. Other people have been more disrupted, going through a fraction what we endured for over 200, 300 years. People weren't able to survive a generation. And instead of identifying the elements of our culture, the elements of our practices, and building those up, reinforcing those, institutionalizing how we were able to endure and resist oppression, you want to condemn us for failing to meet a false standard of familyhood, a false standard of manhood, a false standard of womanhood that was given to us by our oppressors. These black men on this masculinist movement are mad because they don't get to be the head of the household. They don't get to get a wife and a white dress and a man come and give away the bride. We can't do it like they do. Their shit is shit anyway. So I don't support black masculinism or even black feminism. I support Africana womanism. We live in a patriarchal, and now they're talking about feminist patriarchy. Man, this article is for, I'm not even going to, normally when I go at something, I share it with you. But I'm not even going to boost this. Nonsense. This is what I call aggressive integrationism. Because we know the original integrationists, they would sing songs, they would be nonviolent. But then you have some black men that are aggressive like Dr. Umar, black men that are assertive like Dr. Johnson. You have black men that are strong and tough and masculine and macho, and so we think, well, the aggressionist, the integrationist Or like Dr. King, they pray and they kneel and they let a white man spit on them and attack them and they don't fight back. Well, just because I'm willing to fight the white man doesn't mean I don't have the same objective as Dr. King. They want to be equal to white men. And I have to remind us so often, seeking and securing equality with your oppressors make you equal to your oppressors. Becoming equal or securing equality with your oppressor is the opposite of defeating your oppressors. It's the opposite of liberation. Morphing into your oppressor is the opposite of securing liberation from your oppressor. And this masculinist movement is nothing more than black men fighting, complaining, petitioning, working, struggling to get into the position of equal standing with white men. There's nothing redeeming, justifiable, or worthy of supporting in that idea or that mentality. And there has been a long-standing thought since the era of chattel slavery, where the black man, you have some black men that assert that before we can get liberation from the white man, we have to subdue the black women. And there are some toxic black women who think before I can get freedom or proper standing or my humanity can manifest, I have to get freedom from the black man. Or I have to extract as much from the system as the white black man extracts. And this is nothing more than low racial self-esteem, self-hatred. I did run out of time. Somebody told me, but I don't care. Ain't nothing else to be said. I've done another show on this called Fetishizing the Black Family, where we have these notions about how great the black family was in the era of Jim Crow, in the era of chattel slavery, and how bad things are now because women won't get married, women having children on their own, women deciding to abort a child when they get pregnant, women having access to birth control. And they got these people out here saying the most dangerous place for the whole black churches buying up billboards, saying the most dangerous place for a black child is the womb of a black woman. And you know, those billboards are like $5,000. Instead of distributing that money to women, poor women who actually decided to give birth to black children, you want to put up a billboard to attack and distort the reality that many poor black women have to deal with. I'm not having it. Oh, I don't support it. I am a liberationist. I am a rationalist. I am a revolutionary. I am not a masculinist. I am not a meninist. I'm not a feminist. I acknowledge the internal conflicts. Oh, that's my time, y'all. Let me tell you something. I'll be back tomorrow. And if there's some more stuff that needs to be said on this, y'all want to call in and chime in on this, be my guest. But until that time, I guess I told you, it's Q4 Radio, Patreon. Go to patreon.com, support the show, help keep us on the air, share the show. Please go to my YouTube page and subscribe. Peace, y'all.